Hello dear students, so now today we would move ahead in this chapter number 4 of class 8 science, that is materials, metals and non-metals. So there we were discussing about the physical properties of the metals. We have already discussed the malleability, ductility, etc. physical properties of the metal. So today we would discuss about the next physical property, that is conduction of heat. So write in your notebook the next physical property there, that is conduction of heat. Now conduction of heat, what does this mean? It means metals are good conductor of heat. Metals are good conductor of heat. Now what does this mean? Let's say suppose you have an iron rod here and you put this one end of the iron rod over the fire. Okay, you put this one end of the iron rod over the fire and you hold this iron rod from here. Okay, so holding this iron rod from here, you put this one end of the iron rod over fire. Now after some time you would feel that this one end also has become hotter. Are you getting it or not? So how does this happen? Means you have put this one end of the iron rod over fire and you are holding it from here. Now after some time you are feeling that yes, this one end also has become hotter. How does this happen? It means the metals, this is the iron rod, iron is the metal. It means the metals are good conductor of heat. It means the heat that you are giving to this one end has been transferred to this one end also. Are you getting that? Yes, the heat that you are giving to this one end has been transferred to this one end also. So this shows that metals are good conductor of heat. And this is the reason that the kitchen utensils or the cooking utensils are made up of the metal. Yes or not? Yes, all the cooking utensils are made up of metal. Like we are making the cooking utensils out of aluminium. We are making the cooking utensils out of steel. Steel is nothing, it is also iron, but some mixture is also there of the carbon. So carbon plus iron, okay, this makes the steel. Okay, but still it contains more amount of iron. Okay, so all the kitchen utensil, the cooking utensil that you have are made up of the metals. Okay, because the metals are good conductor of heat. Let's say you have a utensil made up of the aluminium, and if you put it over the fire and you have some food material over it, let's say you are making the chapati or you are cooking the vegetable here. Okay, so all the heat that is being transferred to this one utensil that is made up of the aluminium would be transferred to the food material that is being cooked over it. So rather burning itself, this utensil would not burn. So rather burning itself, it would transfer all the heat to the food material that is being cooked over it. Are you getting it? Yes. So this is the reason that the cooking utensils are made up of the metal. Nowadays we are using the non-stick utensils also. Non-stick utensils. What are these non-stick utensils? These non-stick utensils are also made up of the metal. But simple, they have a coating of Teflon over them. They have a coating of Teflon. We have already discussed about the Teflon in the previous chapter. Okay, so they have the coating of Teflon over them. Why there is the coating of Teflon over it? Because so that some oily things could not stick to it. So that is why we have the coating of Teflon over it. But still this utensil is made up of the metal. Are you getting it or not? Yes. So metals are good conductor of heat. This shows that metals are good conductor of heat, and this is the reason that all the cooking utensils are made up of metal. So let me write this all here. So this is what you have to write. Conduction of heat means metals are good conductor of heat, and this is the reason that all the cooking utensils are made up of the metal. Now we have the next physical property of the metal, that is metals have high melting and boiling point. Okay, now metals have very high melting point as well as the boiling point, and combining with they are good conductor of heat. So these two reasons are enough to tell that yes, the cooking utensils are made up of the metal. So if someone asks you why the cooking utensils are made up of the metal, so the reason is what? The reason is the utensils, that is the utensils that are made up of the metal. The metals are good conductor of heat. That's the first reason. And one more, the second reason is they have the very high melting point. Okay, so these are the reasons. So let's say suppose you have a utensil here made up of the metal. Let's say it is made up of the aluminum, and you just put it over the fire and you are cooking something there. So it is not melting, rather melting itself, it would transfer all the heat to the food material that is being cooked over it. Yes or not? It is not melting. It needs very high temperature to melt. So with this small temperature, that is the fire is downside there. With this small temperature, this metal utensil would not melt. Is not going to melt. Rather, it would transfer all the heat to the food material that is being cooked over it. Yes or not? So the metals have very high melting point. Remember this, metals have very high melting point. They would not melt. They would not melt in the small temperature there. Like we are burning the fire downside, and these metals would not melt. Rather, they would transfer the heat to the food material there. Are you getting it or not? So this is the reason that the metals have high melting point, as well as they are good conductor of electricity. So these two reasons are enough to tell us that yes, we should make the cooking utensils of the metal. Are you getting this? Very good. And one more important thing, that we have a metal that is known as the tungsten. So tungsten is a metal, and this is used in making the filament of the bulb. You must have seen inside the bulb. Inside the bulb there is a filament like this. Inside the bulb you must have seen a filament, a small filament like this inside the bulb. You must have seen this. Yes or not? So this filament is also made up of the tungsten. Okay, so inside the bulb there is very high temperature inside the bulb. So rather melting itself, it would burn, it would give some light. Okay, but it would not melt. So tungsten has highest melting point. Tungsten has highest melting point, but at the same time you have some other metals also which have very low melting point, like sodium, like potassium. So these are the two metals which have very low melting point. Okay, are you getting this? So these two metals have very low melting point, and tungsten has the highest melting point here. Okay, now let me write this also. So this is what you have to write in your notebook. Metals have high melting and boiling point. Metals have very high melting and boiling point, and that is also one advantage that why cooking utensils are made up of metals. Okay, now the next thing that I have already told you, that is tungsten has the highest melting point, and it is also used in making the filaments of the bulb. And then you have sodium and potassium. These are the two metals which have very low melting points, because all the metals do not have the same melting and boiling points. This would vary from metals to metals. Are you getting it? So that is all for today. See you in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you. Have a good day.